Hope, it's the only thing stronger than fear. That's the message hanging on the wall behind the register at a diner on Route 220 in Bath County. About 3 hours west of Richmond, this part of the Shenandoah Valley is best known for scenic overlooks, sprawling farmland, and other natural splendors. It's also home to the picturesque town of Hot Springs. And near the end of Main Street, inside a tiny law office, you'll find a state lawmaker who has devoted his life to fixing a problem that many fear is getting worse.
It's something that my eyes have been open to, and something that then crushed me.
Life has been a series of what-ifs for Senator Creed Deeds. In 2005, the Democrat ran for Attorney General and lost one of the closest statewide elections in history.
To present to you.
Then, in 2009, he was defeated in the governor's race.
We didn't get the result we wanted today.
But almost exactly 4 years later, Deeds would suffer his greatest loss, and it would have nothing to do with politics. On November 19, 2013, he was attacked and repeatedly stabbed inside his home by his own son. A short time later, the 24-year-old Gus Deeds shot and killed himself. In the days that followed, we learned that the younger Deeds had been diagnosed as bipolar, and his behavior had grown increasingly paranoid and delusional. We also learned that just hours before the attack, his father had brought him to a hospital, concerned that he might hurt himself. But when the mental health workers couldn't find a psychiatric bed for him, Gus was released. Creed Deeds says the system failed that night. Ever since, he's been trying to make a better one.
You know, it drives me every day. It's one of the reasons I get out of bed in the morning.
Just months after his son's death, Deeds formed a commission to examine Virginia's mental health care system and come up with ways to make it more efficient.
I was determined when I took this on in 2014 that we not be so crisis-driven, that we try to keep a focus on this and keep a face on the problems.
Deeds says that one of the biggest successes of his commission concerns emergency custody orders, which are court-issued mandates that allow police to temporarily detain people in the throes of mental breakdown. Before his son's death, those orders expired after 6 hours if no psychiatric bed could be located. Now it has been increased to 8 hours with the possibility of an additional 4.
Sometimes a person is just in crisis and you can figure out how to address that crisis if you have a little more time to do it.
He's also proud of a bill just signed into law that requires 9th and 10th graders be taught mental health awareness, making Virginia only the second state in the nation to do so.
The reason why this is so important, 70% of those people with mental illness first have an episode between the ages of 14 and 24.
The clerk will close the roll.
Deeds says the good news is that lawmakers have made mental health funding a top priority, and the latest budget is proof.
If you include everything for behavioral health, it's like $192 million for behavioral health, which is more than we've ever done before.
But he admits, in some cases, we're not spending that money wisely.
50% of our money is spent in institutions that serve 2% of our consumer base. That imbalance is out of line with the rest of the country.
Instead, Deeds wants to see more money invested in CSBs, the publicly funded community services boards. They provide mental health and substance abuse services to thousands of Virginians, especially those who don't have insurance.
We need to make sure we have the services in place so that we're just not releasing people onto the street.
And that brings us to the reason why we reached out to Senator Creed Deeds in the first place. It was all because of something that was said during an interview in February with a Dinwiddie County man that said mental illness had torn his family apart. Hear how he says the state failed his brother and his nephew, and why Creed Deeds has serious concerns about the state hospital that houses some of the Richmond area's most violent psychiatric patients. Next.